are on the March 14. This is the 14th of March, and we are once again, Introspective Self is once again into the process of coming out to you and developing a very interesting topic that we have available today. And the topic is fear. That specific notice that you guys are afraid. What are you guys thinking? What is fear? What is what does fear stands for? I mean, I personally perceive fear is something that is really unknown. There is something that is really causing us to shake a little or be aware of something, crisp our nerves, be standing by, something that is really putting our attention to details and everything, every movement that we do, we are conscious of it. So that's one positive outlook I notice about fear. Another one will be actually the idea of trying to figure it out. We are grasping the walls of the limits of something else. So it's on the look for change. Because that intensity of emotions are actually not really putting yourself off guard. So you want to know what is fear. And today we are going to cover that topic. And guess who is with us today? Thank you very much, Greg Basil-Chiodi, for being with us once again. I really appreciate your time and being with us and this 1 hour of conversation that we will have right here in Introspective Self, the place where important conversations happen, and it's actually the site where positive streams, light thoughts, and conscious awareness. So tell us, Greg. Welcome once again. I mean, I'm so glad you are with us explaining what fear is all about. It's a very interesting topic, very, very intriguing, very, uh, actually, I will say very positive because we are focusing on that area because what we want to know how to cope with fear. How can we use it for our benefit? How can we enter into a fear perspective coming out successful? What can you tell us about that, Greg Basil-Chiodi? Welcome to the Introspective Self Show.
Oh, thanks so much, Ramil. Thanks for having me. And this is a great show, and it's great to be here. And yeah, when we're talking about fear, and I thought, it's a very good and interesting and important topic.
Yes.
Particularly now, and this is one of the different of many topics that falls within the cocooning years, and so when we're talking about fear, fear can come up for many different reasons for different people at different times.
Right.
And so I think where I'll start is I'll give a background of fear first, and then I'll get into what one will learn today with fear. So
yes, please tell us what is fear.
well, thanks. So fear is actually it goes as far back as the early caveman days, and it
Okay.
goes back to the fight or flight response that we had as far back as then. A lot, of course, has changed since then. We've evolved, greatly, particularly, when it comes to the industrial revolution, and now with technology and robotics. However, what's really interesting is that through all the thousands of years of change from the times that we were cavemen, our bodies themselves, our physical body hasn't changed.
Right.
It's still the same. So and what I mean by that is that our bodies, our physical self, is geared up to, we either run away from a situation or we stay and we fight the situation. And so our body still has that same response today. And and back, in those days, when we talked about fear, we're also talking about change. And you can't really talk about one without talking about the other, because change is just as important as fear. Because what is fear? Well, fear is being afraid of the unknown.
Mostly, right?
Yeah, and also fear itself is an acronym.
For oh yeah, I love your acronym, but we'll go into it later.
Yeah,
Let's give the concept first.
yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about how it's an acronym later on. So basically, yeah. So it has to do with the fight or flight response. And
Firefighters.
so yeah.
Hmm.
So what we'll learn today is to clarify uh, one's fear or fears. We're going to be looking at anxiety and what it really means to you. To understand the messages that our higher self is sending us through our specific fears, right? And this comes from the power of positivity. The third thing we're going to be looking at is to identify the changes that one can make to eliminate fear and anxiety. And then
Okay.
we're also going to look at the fourth thing we'll look at is to appreciate the present as the key to our freedom from fear. And the fifth and final thing we're going to look at with all of this is to commit ourselves to a life being free from fear.
I doubt it, but let's try it.
Well, we have to be positive. We have to be positive, right? And it's
Well, the idea definitely, but the idea is that fear is a positive factor in our bodies. Without fear, we wouldn't exist. I mean, it is present in there for one specific reason. Without fear, we wouldn't be. I mean, we will go anywhere. We could jump out of the bridge without fear. We can do it, no problem. But we will be dead.
you're right.
So
You're right. You're
it's
right.
actually telling
Absolutely.
us not to do certain things. So it's actually it's a good sense for us. So you have to consider that aspect, I guess.
That's right. That's absolutely. Yeah, and
Thank
on
you.
that note, so when we're talking about clarifying the fear and anxiety, and where it's coming from and what it really means to us, what we're really looking at is that we have to remember first and foremost that all the answers to any of our questions, including what scares us or where that fear is coming from, is within us, and the fears are there, and we have to learn why they're there, because they're not there to be feared. They're there as a teaching tool for us to help us through our own course of evolution.
So first
That's
of all, you said
all the
because
concept.
they are within us. You mean it's our perspective of the things that we observe around us that makes us uncomfortable and perhaps make us feel fear.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Because
Well,
really, what fear is it could it's not having the not when we don't feel that we have the tools to deal with the fear, to deal with the situation that's come up. And when we
okay.
don't
Oh,
feel that we have the tools, that's where the fear comes from.
okay. So
We
it's
feel
not knowing what to do with whatever movement that we have to make. We have to make a decision, and we do not know what kind of decision we are going to make. And if we are not prepared with knowledge, either knowledge or with some kind of shield or some kind of strategies, we will be very fearful. Mm-hmm.
right, because again, if we look at the caveman days, when we're talking about fear in the caveman days, it was based on, so it was it was a hunting and gathering type of society. So we would
Yes.
go off and hunt for our food, and so the fear was, okay, well, if I don't kill that tiger's going to kill and eat me,
Right.
right? So it's a legitimate fear that we had, because it was survival, right? If we encountered, and also at those times we lived in our hunting and gathering groups of people of maybe 15 or 20 people. Every morning you wake up, you're with those same 20 people. If you
Wow.
encounter a new person, well, that person is to be feared because chances are um, that person was out to either take your land or to take out you and your people. And so you then either the choice was to run away from that person or those new people that you encountered, or you stay and fight them, right? And it's the same thing when one encounters that tiger. Do I stay and fight this tiger or do I run away from it? So that's what I mean by having that fight or flight response.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Is another typical example will be actually the idea. I mean, I went to Tao practices of martial arts, and it instructs us what to do when danger approaches. The idea is that you have two major options. One is to stay. If you are feeling confident, when what fear it is, it will be looking at the opposite side of fear, which is confidence, right? You have confidence, you are not fearful. So if you are confident that you can handle the situation with what you said, with the tools, with the right preparation, with the right mental frame, uh, so the strategy will be, if you are well prepared to handle a group of attackers, you will have less fear and you will be focused on the actions that to take. But if you are not prepared, for example, if I do not know how to defend myself, the better option will be just to run away, to go the other direction of the conflict. So
That's
evade
right. That's right.
those two
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
One will be to evade conflict. The other one will
Right.
be to stay and solve the situation right there.
That's
That
right.
that, that
Because,
definitely
absolutely. Because
one.
yeah,
Correct.
because again, what it is as as you said, is it's about having having the proper tools, but also having the confidence that those tools will work in that
Perfect.
situation.
Perfect.
And if
And
we
that
feel that we don't have the tools and or we don't have the confidence to use them, that's where the fear comes in. Because really, what is fear? It's when we feel that we have no control or a lack of control in a situation.
right. So
Right.
the
So
better option is to run away, go out the other way.
absolutely. I'll give you another. This is another great realistic real life example.
Right.
Is, for example, during the day we love to go for walks in the park.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. You have the trees, you have the birds, you have we're coming up into to April soon, where that will help the buds and the seeds to grow, and so by May we'll have flowers to look at. However, come nighttime, most people won't walk through the park at night because they'll say it's scary. Why is it scary?
Ah,
Because we can't see what's coming. We don't
right.
feel we have the tools to cope, or if we have tools to cope, we don't have the confidence in those tools enough where we feel safe and comfortable walking through that exact same park that we feel so confident walking through during the day, that's beautiful, that gives us joy, that gives us pleasure, to then walk through at night.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have all these fears that come up. Is there going to be a wild animal? Will there be a person that may not be stable, that might approach me? I mean, because what it is that um, we can see everything during the day, but our vision doesn't really is not set for nighttime, and so
Okay.
we don't have the night vision
So
that
we
other.
lack certain tools, and also we
That's right.
are. I will mention the idea that that will be another aspect of our another aspect of fear, which is called phobias. There are another word for fear, which is phobias, but that is a
That's right.
variety.
That's right. Yeah. And I was going
So
to get
that would
into
be
phobias. I'm glad you
exact,
mentioned that. That's coming up. Yeah, in terms of fears.
excellent,
Yes. Yeah.
perfect.
So um and so fear is basically it's emotionally based, and that's where we feel that we have that's based on the belief that we're in some kind of danger. So using the park as one example, another example would be, we might be intimidated by some of our friends. We might be intimidated by someone else that we come in contact with that we've never met before. it could be based on a behavior that person's exhibiting, a tone of voice, a demeanor. So that's another type of fear.
That would be social fear. The idea, I got another one, which is in education. I mean, I went to do a test the other day, and boy, I was not prepared.
Right,
So my hairs in the back of my neck start crisping out like that. So I said, wow, what do I do? By the time I complete the test, I knew all the questions. It was just a factor of not being confident enough.
right,
So you have to
right,
feel, no matter what you could do is actually try to feel as confident as you can because you know the answers and you know that is you're going in the right path. Perhaps the outcome will be awesome.
right.
Um, but you have to feel that confidence, even though if you're not feeling it, you have to put a blind eyes and go through it, no matter what. So that will be a good example of that. Uh,
Yeah, no, and the example you gave is actually a very good example because and that brings me to the next topic, which is basically talking about and it's all covered within this first question is we have realistic and unrealistic fears or positive and negative fears. So what
okay.
you just mentioned there is a very positive type of fear, which is fear of doing well on a test or an exam, because that fear is what prompts us and gives us the energy and motivation to study for
Yep.
that test or exam so we do better on it. Because if we didn't have that fear of failure with the test or exam, we wouldn't have that driver within us to study and prepare so we're ready to then face that and
So
do
example
right.
actually for us to keep moving towards the good outcome, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is that, and what we've all found is that if we haven't studied for that test or that exam, there's a lot more fear walking into that test or exam than when we feel that we've really studied. And when we feel prepared for that test or exam, we feel less and less fearful of it, and more like, okay, this is just like like eating a piece of cake. It'll be
Wow.
delicious, tasty. I'll get through this. It's not even a road. It's not any kind of a roadblock or any kind of a barrier, you know. Um, and then we have those irrational fears that you brought up using the term phobia, and people can have phobias to anything really. I mean, people have phobias of ants. Some people have a phobia of spiders.
Yeah.
Um, you know, some people have the fear of going outside,
Yeah.
into public spaces,
Yeah.
right? So that can happen too.
Right.
So with all that being said,
Sorry.
um,
Mhm.
it's important for us to be able to rationalize what's positive fear and what's negative fear.
Okay.
And again, the negative fear really has no basis, and the negative fear has to do with they're based on some sort of programming and false belief system or a past traumatic experience that we've had.
I
So,
like to
for
talk
example, being
a little
afraid
bit.
of so for example, like being afraid of people in authority. So someone being afraid of somebody in authority, and that could not only be like, for example, a police officer, a judge, a lawyer, but it could be a teacher, it could be a principal, it could be, it could be a parent, it could be a manager, a supervisor. Because again, if we've had a negative experience usually when we're younger, with anybody in any of these different types of positions, well, it's not uncommon to carry that same fear forward. And now it's not just that one type of individual; it's all individuals that fit that type that one becomes afraid of.
I get another one right here, and this is actually is a buildup. What you just mentioned is a very problematic situation that is happening in society nowadays, and is some trauma that causes one little spot to become fearful of within our brain, within our minds, within our aspect of, for example, we are afraid of swimming, for example. or if we are afraid of, it could be talking to somebody that is a higher hierarchy or knowledge, more knowledgeable than us. People are afraid of talking with so other people. People afraid of talking with other people. That's another one right there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
this happens when you are a child, but if you let it grow, it becomes how do you call this one? It becomes it build
It can become bigger. It can become bigger, and can take, and it can actually take us over, and it can prevent us. Well, it does. Fear, any fear prevents us from our own personal self growth and development. It stunts us. It stunts our own personal growth and development when we allow fear to take over, and then we become more complacent and we become comfortable in that fear, and even though it's an uncomfortable place to be in, we become used to it, and
right.
so it becomes, so that uncomfortable becomes comfortable. Another example is somebody who's grown up in a household that was abusive, whether it's physical,
With that,
psychological, psychosocial. It doesn't matter. When one's brought up in that environment, it's very hard to break out of that kind of environment, and one is almost prone to repeat that on some level or another throughout the rest of that person's life because subconsciously is comfortable. And it's important to point out the difference between being conscious of something and subconscious. When we're conscious of something, it's when we're fully aware, we realize, we know it's happening, and then we can make the conscious decision to make a change.
okay.
When it's subconscious, it's when we're not consciously aware. It's there, but we're not aware it's happening. We're not fully aware, and we're not fully aware of just how much that's taken us over.
Aha. Interesting.
Right.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
So,
What
um,
can we do about this? I mean, what will the solutions be? I mean, we have covered the clarifying what anxiety is, and we have covered that certain examples of what types of phobias and types of fears are there. Those are we in this space we can only cover certain. There's so many, right?
yeah,
I mean,
that's right. That's right. I mean, fears are endless because what you and I may not be afraid of, somebody else somewhere is.
okay.
You know, because every
I want to touch on also on that specific factor that defend us from falling or defend us from being cautious of something. So fear is actually useful for that. What kind of fear is that?
sorry, fear of,
For example, when I go uh, when I want to actually learn to walk or learn to ride a bike.
yeah,
That fear, that impulses, that fear that really causes happiness at the end of the successful outcome. It's actually it's a good fear, but
yeah.
at the
So that's
beginning,
what brings us. You
later on,
let's
we're
yeah,
more confident. We build up
right.
on small successes one at a time, and
Right. Yeah, so that brings about a feeling of euphoria, you know. So we feel very good about ourselves for accomplishing that. So the fear again is there as a teacher. So it's there as it is an obstacle, but it's only an obstacle for as long as we allow it to be an obstacle, and as
right,
long as we're working towards and working through it. And the important thing also is not to put a timeline because a lot of people will put a timeline and say, okay, by this date I should have worked my way and I should have worked myself through this fear. But that's not realistic to do that. And the reason being is because we're setting ourselves up for failure. So as long as we're consciously working on and working through that fear, it doesn't matter how long it takes. What matters is that we're able to see the milestones, however small, because it's baby steps to get somewhere. You know, it's like, for example, if you're going to cross a creek and you don't want to get your feet wet, well, you're going to look for the path of least resistance. You're going to look for the path that's going to allow you to cross most safely and where you're not going to get wet. You may have to walk to that river, you know, the course of that river, you know, maybe 5 minutes. It could be 45 minutes or even over an hour to find that right spot to cross. And then even when crossing, you're stepping over a series of stones or rocks to get to the other side.
Right.
Right. So there's a series of smaller hurdles that we have to get through to accomplish the bigger picture. Right.
Yeah.
If I can use that. So again, it's just knowing that it takes time, patience, and as long as we're working and perseverance, and as long as we're doing that, that's what's most important, not the amount of time it takes. And for
Interesting.
different people,
Patience. Yeah.
yeah,
In karate, taekwondo, the first thing that they teach you is you say you got to do patience. It's important, right? You before you go to into a fight, you have to be patient, and that will give you clarity of what will the next step will be, according to how you advance into experiencing the next outcome. That's
well,
very interesting.
that's right, that's right. So and again, the fear would be if one's going to go into a tournament, if one is competing in a race, if one, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, what it is that that's positive fear, because again, that's the fear that allows us to practice and prepare for those tournaments and for those races, so we do well. And if we don't win, then it just reminds us of what more we need to work on. And if we do win, well, it still reminds us that there's someone else around the corner that still might be a little bit faster, or still may be a little bit better in terms of moves when it comes to that race or tournament or tournaments. And whether one is competing against others, or one is competing against, or one is still competing against themselves. And that's the other thing to point out, because we might be in a race against other people. We might be in a tournament against other people, and if we knock that, so if we win that race, or we get that knockout, it's what that is it's a sign that we've been doing our own personal work, and we're on the right path for ourselves, because we have some natural talents in that area. We've been working on and building on that. If we don't win that match, if we don't win that race, again, it's a reminder of what we need to work on within ourselves. So again, it all comes back to self. It's all about self. Which
Wow.
yeah.
Very
Um,
interesting, Greg. We covered the fact that we can take action above all, and there are so many steps that we can take. There are so many useful experiences that we can accomplish without the need to be overwhelmed by this emotion. Considering that, I like to give an example of obstacles. I mean, what is an obstacle? So an obstacle is actually that invisible veil that we put ourselves like a mountain in front of us, so we can keep experiencing until we learn the lesson that we have to learn in the path that we are going through, right? Isn't
right,
it?
right.
That would be the concept of an obstacle. And how to overcome that obstacle? By allowing fear to actually incorporate little by little and push us forward into that specific goal, one after the other, that we want to accomplish, isn't it, Greg?
It's true. It's true. And some fears are more subtle and a lot more difficult to detect. So, for example, like the fear of failure or the fear of success, which is what, and the fear of success is the fear of failure. Um, Rejection, or feeling lonely, that feeling of loneliness. So these are all fears that one has to dig deeper within ourselves to uncover, and then to heal and move on. Because again, feeling lonely or being lonely is an illusion.
It's lack of understanding ourselves.
That's right, because it's being detached from ourselves is what it is. When we're not really fully within ourselves. And
Right.
when we're fully within ourselves, we realize that we're not lonely, because, and I'll be talking about working with our higher self as well. When we're in tune with our higher self, we realize that we're not alone. We're never alone, right? And so therefore, we can be alone, but we're not lonely. And there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. Right.
Definitely.
So being alone is we're physically, we're in a space and it's just ourselves, and there's nobody else around. um, being lonely is when we feel that, and it's important to say feel because we don't know. We feel that we're on our own and that there's nothing else around us.
Right.
But
Yeah.
when we're in contact with our higher self, and when
Yes.
we're and through meditation, we
Yeah.
realize that we're not lonely because we do realize that there's other, there's other beings. We have our spirit guides. We have there's so much else that's there that's there with us.
Right.
So we're actually never on our own. But I'll be getting more into that as we go as we dive into the higher,
Right.
working with the higher self. Yeah.
Right.
Um, so again, so whether our fears are subtle or obvious, most of our fears are irrational, and we use them but yeah, we use these irrational feelings or beliefs on a regular basis, and that's what we have to work on eliminating. Everybody has them. Some are better than others at handling their fear or fears, but we all
Right.
have them. And again, they're there as teaching tools because they're there to help us to evolve. So now I'm going to go into talking about our higher self.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So our higher self operates on a different frequency than we do, because on our physical self, we're in the physical plane. Some even refer to this as the organic plane. Um, and So our higher self must send us messages, and we receive those messages through different mediums than just talking to us directly, right? Because our higher self, we can't communicate with the higher realms and other dimensions through physical talking. It's more mental.
So what is the higher self, first of all? What is the higher self for the people who are out there listening?
So good question. So the higher self, what that is it's working with the universal consciousness,
Okay. So
or
it's not.
God, or working with Allah. There's different terms, but really that's what it means. So we're in tune with everything and all around us,
Okay.
right?
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good concept. Okay. A very, very abstract idea of higher self. Yes. Okay.
yeah.
The
So
fountain of wisdom, kind of where we get all the knowledge from, I guess. Could
that's
be.
that's right. Well, we don't get all of our knowledge. Well, yeah, I mean, all of our knowledge comes from there, but it also comes through speaking with and talking with others. It comes through reading. It comes through
Spirit.
different mediums, right? So it's not just the universal self is one medium, right? The universal consciousness, but there's other mediums where we get our learning as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
So ways that our higher self is trying to contact us, so that and communicate with us. This is very important because some people might say, well, how does the universal consciousness contact us? How is God trying to communicate with us, or Allah, or Creator? How are they trying
Let's
to
make
how's
yourself.
that trying to contact us? Well, so for example, um, through numbers. So we might see the time 11:11 or other repeating numbers on a clock more often.
Okay.
That's one way. Seeing the same numbers being repeated on receipts, or if one is studying, for example, math, or if one is looking at, so when the same numbers are repeating themselves, it's not a coincidence, because when we're working with our higher self, we realize that there's no such thing as a coincidence. Coincidences don't exist. Everything happens for a reason. So, so when we're seeing repeating numbers, they carry a lot of energy and actually don't occur very often. Seeing repeating numbers, especially, for example, 11:11, means that we've learned to get more in tune with our authentic self, and it wants us to feel assured and confident on our path that we're on.
Okay.
So that's really important to note. You feel drawn to meditate more regularly, and the reason why we're being drawn to meditate more regularly is because when we're meditating, we're connecting with the higher self, right? We're connecting with the universal consciousness.
Right.
Yeah. So meditation allows us to truly go within and quiet the noise of our brains and also of our everyday life, because in our brains we have a constant chatter. Oh yeah, okay, so once this meeting is done, I have these few phone calls I have to make, or I'm going to go and make lunch. What am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner tonight? Tomorrow, oh yeah, there's a meeting tomorrow. So when one first starts to meditate, usually one has all these different thoughts going off in their mind. And so the first part of meditation is learning how to quiet the mind, or quiet the monkey brain,
I'm
that's
still thinking
often
about this higher self. You said higher
and,
self. My mind is still full of the idea of higher self. What is the higher self? And how does the self connect with the higher self? I'm still there.
so as I was saying, the higher self is communicating with the universal consciousness. It's the universal consciousness.
Okay.
That's what the higher self is. Yeah. Right. So and for us to be able to converse with the universal consciousness that wants to give us messages, well, we have to learn to meditate. And when we meditate, that's
We
where
hear
we're.
a lot of thoughts.
What's
Mhm.
that?
We hear a lot of thoughts. You said, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, initially, because our brains are still overactive, right? So Tibetans will quite often refer to the brain as the monkey brain, because it just wants to keep up with the chatter, and it's about quieting the mind, being able to basically just allow our minds to empty, and not have to really think of anything, and just be in a complete state of being, and that takes time. And there's
Okay.
all kinds of different programs on YouTube. There's different CDs and DVDs that one can purchase to aid with that. Later on we can also offer some information on that as well, right? But
Interesting topic.
but
Yeah.
in this
One
just
taste
a
or.
brief
Mhm.
intro, in terms of what that is. Um, so also, not only does meditation relieves stress and our anxiety and depression and other health issues, but it also allows us to again connect with, as I was saying, the higher realms and our higher self, and meaning the universal consciousness. It lifts the veil between this world and others, and allows us to see more clearly, including our own personal self. So, connecting with our higher self means attracting relationships into our life that reflect the path that we're on, and dropping those that no longer serve our best interest or interests. So
Okay.
one should not feel guilty or sad for doing this, right? Because we're constantly evolving, and when I say we're constant, as we're learning, we're evolving, and when we're learning and evolving, our vibration changes, and our vibration and our frequency goes higher, right? So, and when we continue to operate at different frequencies as we go higher, and so those who are operating at a lower frequency, who aren't on the same or similar path that we're on, will stay where they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's that they need to find other people that fit their vibration, just as we need to continuously find people that fit our vibration as we're spinning higher and higher, right? That's really what that is, right? Um, so what we need to do for ourselves um, is that we start to feel excited about life again. Life gets more fun. We feel a lot more inspired once we connect to our higher self. We become a lot more creative and focused on goals. We're a lot more open-minded, and we reconsider things that we might thought we could never do, such as, for example, starting a business, writing a book, um, uh, connecting to people in a certain way that we felt we couldn't connect with before. Maybe now we can connect better with now. Traveling, purchasing a home or a different home. All these things can happen now because we're now doing things on a different level. and we see things from a completely different perspective.
Question.
Yeah.
What does the higher self has to do with the fear topic that we were talking about?
Oh, it has everything to do with it because when we connect with our higher self, it gives us more clarity, and we realize that the fear that we had or the fears that we have are baseless. There was I mean, not baseless. I mean, there was a reason that they were there to begin with, but they're now baseless because we realized that what we thought was like a big mountain was just a pebble in
Okay.
terms of it being an obstacle, because we see things from a completely different vantage point when we connect with our higher self.
So what you're saying is that we looking at the higher self as a factor of perspective will allow us to become much less fearful.
That's
That's
right.
what. Okay.
Absolutely. Because again, what is fear? Fear is the unknown, right? Fear is the not knowing. Fear is and not when we don't feel that we have the tools to
Okay.
deal with the fear, or we have the tools but we don't have the confidence in ourselves. So
Okay.
through meditation,
Let's give the
we're
audience. Let's give the audience a little road so they can walk a little bit towards what is knowing oneself. First, they have to know the self in order for them to learn the higher self, right? I think, in my opinion, I think they will first will have to understand the self in order for them to understand the higher self.
right,
I
right.
think very good path.
Well, no, that's not true, Ramel, because the two of them work together. The two of
Very
them work because when we're connecting with our higher self and we're becoming more aware of what our fears are, and we start working through those fears, well, that's how we get to know ourselves better.
yes.
All of that is about self, Ramel.
That's
It's
learning
really
about the
about
self.
self.
That's very good. That's very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and as we've talked about in previous shows, um, the whole getting to know oneself is asking ourselves questions. So for example, checking in with ourselves on an emotional level. Am I feeling happy today? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling glad? Am I feeling mad? Am I upset? And so then it's important to go within and figure out, okay, so why am I feeling whatever, no matter what emotion it is, they're all there for a reason. They're all there to serve a purpose. We've
That
been
will
taught in
bring
society.
awareness into the perspective of focus. Okay.
That's right. Excuse me. That's right. We've been taught by society that if we're feeling happy, well, that's awesome. That's a great positive emotion to feel. If we're feeling glad, another great positive emotional to feel. So feel that, embrace it. Now, when we're feeling angry, when we're feeling upset, we're feeling sad, shelve those. We've been taught to shelve them by society. Don't look at them, don't deal with them because they're negative emotions. Well, they're not negative. They're actually not negative emotions at all. They're also very positive. We need to look at them. We need to address them. They're there for a reason. They're there to tell us, hey, buddy, there's something going on. You need to check this out. And when we go
Unfortunately,
within and
how
explore it, then what happens then is that we're able to get to the root of the issue or issues that's causing those different emotions, and then we can start asking ourselves, what do I now need to do to correct, change, or improve this, so I no longer have to feel this emotion, right? And all of that again is about um, understanding and getting to know oneself better and working through different obstacles and hurdles and fears.
perfect, perfect. I like that. Now that we know ourselves a little bit more, we'll move on to learning our higher self. I mean, that will be a maximized potential that the higher self is connected to many of us, right? Our
Yes.
many futures and pasts that were are supposed to happen or maybe happen already, and the possibilities within. So considering virtual reality, also considering the possibilities that we could have done this or we could have done that, and so many options available for us to take. And if we take this option, we could actually reach to this goal, and this goal is over here. we could reach both goals at the same time. And so there are so many possibilities. It's
Yeah,
infinite, an
yeah,
infinite number of possibilities. Wow. So
yeah,
accessing the higher self will be accessing infinite possibility within ourselves.
yes, yeah.
That,
That's right. That's right. So, and so when we awaken our higher, and so again, when we're working through emotions and we're working through the different difficulties and challenges, we're actually working through understanding ourself more is what we're doing, and we are in touch with our higher self when we're doing that.
how
Because
can, aside from meditation, aside from focusing on ourselves, how can we get in touch with the higher self?
so good question. I was going to come to that next. So again, so one is, so another one is having a more intense, vivid dreams, right? So one way again was seeing repeating numbers, right, on a clock or another means. Um, uh, we talked about
We have to be observant of the events that are happening around us, right? We have to
yeah,
be very aware, bring awareness into our perspective.
yeah. We so we may have so for example, you know, we so when we're awakening our higher self, this means that our mind is going to become more fluid and will likely experience more meaningful, intense dreams. So by becoming more open-minded, so that's what's happening is that as we become more in tune with the higher self, we're becoming more open-minded. Okay, um, and it allows us to be more conscious of dreams. We remember our dreams; they become more vivid, and we start to reflect on the dreams that we have. Um, so this way, we're likely to have dreams about something that we're currently experiencing, or we might experiencing in the near future, and this can directly apply to our life to help us on our journey and to resolve and solve those difficulties or problems that we're currently in or might be coming up in the near future. Um,
Wow.
one
Wow.
also may have difficulty having sleeping or getting to sleep. Um, one of the downsides to spiritual awakening is the difficulty in getting regular sleep. The higher frequencies might make it harder to fall asleep as our mind becomes more active and our DNA continues to upgrade. But we need to trust the process. It's always for our higher good, always, all the time. Okay, so that's important. Okay, um, paying it more attention to our self-talk. So we don't tolerate negative self-talk, and we're monitoring our thoughts a lot more on a conscious level as well when we're in tune with our higher self.
Within
We
ourselves,
tune into each thought
it's
that we're
communication is
having to do,
peace.
that we're doing our best to catch ourselves when we say something negative to ourselves or others, and replace it with positive ones whenever we possibly can. We have
Mhm.
to we have the desire to share more time alone. As our higher self continues to share through more, we realize that the world around us doesn't really resonate with us most of the time. So we find ourselves in meditation more and more each day, because we find that we need to get our energy and our meaning and our purpose more through meditation than through the regular world around us.
Well, it's understanding when we are focusing on ourselves and in connection with the higher self, we definitely understand ourselves better and we know where are we coming from and perhaps where we're going. We know much more clearly our function and our objectives, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we realize that we need to spend a lot more time in solitude on our own, to recharge and connect with our spirit guides and other helpers in this realm, which is important. Um, we begin to feel a lot more love and compassion than we ever have before.
Right.
We also begin to let go of fear based emotions and harmful mentalities. Our higher self reminds us that the world is truly a magical and inspirational place, but we have to believe this ourselves. This is the most important piece. Love and compassion will always win, out over hate and apathy. So we have to tune in our vibration to higher frequencies that serve the planet in the best possible way. Right. So I think this answers your question also that you had from earlier.
Yeah.
It's, right. So all this is really important. So we begin to see life manifest just as we had envisioned it. Right.
The
So it's
key,
pieces of
the
a
key
puzzle
word
coming
will be
together to form the bigger
faith.
picture.
The key
What's that?
word will be faith, belief, actually trust. That will be the keywords.
That's right. That's right. And trust is a big issue because again, how do we trust something that we cannot physically see before us? Right. So again, it's trusting the fear, you know, and knowing that fear is baseless because we know that the universal consciousness is there, that we can't necessarily physically see it, but we know it's there. We can feel it if we allow ourselves to. We can be in tune with it if we allow ourselves to, and we can see aspects of it if we allow ourselves to also. Right. So that's
I
important.
would say trust ourselves for whatever experience, whatever action we take. We do it with trust. We do it
Yes.
with a conscious awareness that it is possible to do it,
Yeah.
and we do it with the impulse of fear, the energy that we gain additionally to what that awareness is. And that's what fear comes into place. And so we play an important factor in a togetherness, becoming one with whatever is happening in that specific moment.
That's right. That's right. And so when we're connected with the higher self, with the higher good, in time we see our dreams unfold right before our very eyes. The world feels like a magical fairy tale. We no longer give in to limiting beliefs. We have, and as we experience too many miracles and strange circumstances, we, um, you know, so we break away from different beliefs and rules. We realize that we're creating our own reality. Um, and through our thoughts, our intentions, and energy, and we construct our life as we see fit with the help of our higher self.
I love the idea that you said we create and we break barriers, we break habits, we break beliefs. Because we are gaining control over ourselves, we are gaining more experience, and we are reaching more tools at our available for us that are available for us. That's amazing, and that's only through experience and patience, like you mentioned. It takes a little time
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
are
no,
to
for
focus
sure.
on time.
Because as I was saying before, fear is a metaphor for false experience appearing real.
False experience, yeah.
Yeah, fear
Uh,
is
yeah.
yeah, is the acronym for false experience appearing real.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So which brings us to the third thing, right? So the third point um, that I wanted to talk about is about that whole piece around when we're looking at fear. We need to be looking at how to identify the changes that one can make to eliminate fear and anxiety.
That's number 3, changes. Okay.
Yeah. So number 3 is changes.
So how do we identify changes that are happening? Well, I will say if we are advancing, moving forward, gaining experience and accessing new tools at our perspectives, and observing ourselves from a higher perspective each and every time, different, not only one perspective, but various perspectives, so we can see the whole. Uh, we are definitely moving forward into change. We are transforming, we're changing constantly, which is something that happens on a daily basis, on a constant basis in this three-dimensional world.
Right. So for example, so when we're looking at how to identify changes we can make to eliminate fear, um, so One of them is the food that we're eating, because when we're under the most stress, the most anxiety, up against fear, one of the first things we can do is look at the foods that we're eating, because we tend to um, go for foods that we would consider that have high sugar, because, and it's no coincidence, because when we're experiencing anxiety and stress, we're using more energy when we experience those than if we were to go to the gym, or when we're running or jogging or doing any form of exercise. And so the body needs to replenish itself, needs to replenish that energy. Well, the quickest way to get that is through sugar.
Okay. All
And
kinds of.
so, and that's why a lot of people turn to junk food.
Okay.
So if someone's broken up with somebody, or someone has just had someone break up with them, they'll reach for that tub of ice cream and start eating that, or a chocolate bar. When we're studying for an exam, or a test, or before we go into a meeting, we might reach for those bag of chips or that candy bar. It's because what our body is craving in that moment is sugar to replenish that energy that we're using, um, up,
To
because
move on.
because
Move
we're
on.
experiencing that fear, that anxiety, that stress, right?
Okay.
Um, what we don't realize is that's the time that we really need to be eating the healthiest.
Mm-hmm. Being more
So
aware on the what we intake. So you mentioned what we
yeah,
eat is really important. Focus on what we are intaking, what we are drinking, because
yeah,
that allowed us to become much more clearer. Okay.
absolutely. And you mentioned drinking. Well, what's the first thing that people reach for? Coffee, because
Wow.
the caffeine gives us that rush, right?
Yeah.
Because our bodies need to replenish that energy. So, and that's all the body knows. The
Right.
body doesn't know where that energy is coming from. They don't know. It doesn't know where the sugars are coming from. It's
Right.
just saying, I need energy. And so our brain says, oh, you need energy. Sugar is the quickest way. Caffeine is the quickest way. So, and so,
What
and
kind
that
of
and that's a
are
whole
we
other
are we
topic again, is
recommend?
around marketing, and how what companies who are aware of this are using to market their products. For example, Red Bull.
What kind of food do you recommend?
So good question. So it's important that we get our balance, our daily balance of nutrition. So if you look at the different food groups, dairy is important. Fish, vegetables, raw vegetables are a lot healthier than boiled or cooked vegetables, because a lot of the nutritional value in vegetables is gone through boiling or cooking,
Yeah.
right? What a lot of people don't realize, actually, that if you buy frozen fruit and frozen vegetables, well, those vegetables and fruit are being picked at the peak of ripening, and then they're taken right to the plant and quick frozen. So most of the vitamins and nutrients are actually still there within those vegetables and fruit. The same thing with canned fruit. Canned fruit and vegetables, those are also picked at the peak of ripening, and right away they're canned and preserved. So a lot of that nutritional value is still there.
Very
Some
good.
will even argue that there's more nutritional value in canned and frozen products than the fruits and vegetables we purchase at the grocery store, because they're
They're
picked
the
before
best
the peak
quality
of ripening.
they can. Yes, I understand
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, that that we're getting the right amount of dairy. Calcium is important for the bones. That we're going for enough walks outside to clear our minds, but also to get vitamin D from the sun. Also, the
In Canada,
plants.
we don't get that much, and now with the COVID, everybody's inside, so we are lacking on that vitamin, I guess.
Yeah, and it's important to go for walks in the neighborhood, go for walks in the park. It's very safe, being outside, as long as one isn't around any people,
Right.
right? So that's important. Um, so avoiding the tendency to use negative words on ourselves and others. Um, you know, um, Putting ourselves in a position where we don't have any financial concerns, so not living above our financial means. A lot of people live above their financial means on a regular basis. They're
Aha.
spending more than what they have coming in. And so it's important to live within a budget where we actually have more coming in than going out, because we have to always have a little bit of extra money in reserve for unforeseen emergencies that could come up.
So bring awareness into what we intake, into how we speak about ourselves and others, into how we manage our wealth in our finances.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
That's three points, very important points that we have to really look after in order for us to make the right changes. Okay. So
right.
these are the
Yeah.
changes the
So
steps. Very.
avoiding things like traffic jams where we can. So
Oh,
people who are really
that's
aware,
stress.
yeah, so traffic jams creates a lot of stress. And people who are aware of this on a conscious level will leave their homes extra early, for example, to go to work before the traffic jams start, and will take on some kind of an activity or do something in the evening where they might work a little bit longer. So when they leave work, the traffic jam has dissipated, so so there's less traffic going home. Some people do that too,
But
where they can. It's not
okay.
always avoidable, but another way of working through that is, for example, if you're driving and you're in a traffic jam, play classical music.
I understand that
So
we are creating our reality. Perhaps if
yeah,
we are more in touch with our higher selves, we are not looking at meeting jam.
well, no, well, we're still in that jam. You're still
Unless we
physically in a
are
traffic
supposed to
jam.
be in that
But
path.
if you put your mind into an altered state while driving, of course, yeah, that's great. But one of the things that can help, because different people, it's different tools for different people. Playing classical music while you're driving. It could be that, or playing meditation music. It could
I have
be,
always
um,
had a strategy when driving, and I always have alternative routes in my maps just in case. So yeah, it's very essential to have that
yeah,
alternative routes and different ways of reaching one place. Yeah,
right.
my concurrence in my driving is actually very different every single day, and makes me much more aware. Also, that's very important.
Yes, yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Right. So when we miss a train or a bus, if we're late for a public event, or if we're on our way to a public event where we might be a speaker, um, other personal triggers could be like the smell, the sight of a place, a particular song. Anything can be a potential trigger for stress or anxiety. But once we're consciously aware, we can then work on those things to change that and alter it.
Okay.
Right. Other
Uh,
symptoms of anxiety that um, are, um, for example, uncontrollable worry. Again, fear of whatever, muscle tension, having a fast heartbeat or rapid heartbeat, heart palpitations, difficulty sleeping or having insomnia, difficulty concentrating, physical discomfort, feeling like a tingling sensation in our body, being restless, feeling on the edge, being irritable, sweating, trembling, shaking, feeling as though our throat is closed. Occasional anxiety is common, but chronic feelings of worry, fear, or dread are not. Um, they're not a sign. Well, they're definitely a sign that we should be seeking um, uh, professional help if the need be. Right. So I just want to say
right.
that.
Definitely in the process of becoming ill. So you definitely have to look for the right help, the right professional help that you require.
Yeah.
But we are talking actually as a precaution not to get into that chronic illness. So these are just strategies to move forward. For example, when you mentioned the traffic jam, it came to my mind the situation that our reaction, the way we react is the one that put us in difficulty and in terms of fear. It creates fear for us because it creates stress. It blinds our mind, our capacity to think clearly, and perhaps we react and overreact over the same thing that we make it huge and impossible, or maybe can create trouble. So be aware, be focused on not reacting, but patience, like we mentioned before. Uh, be actually calm, breathe. Breathing is very essential. Staying on the present right here and think before you react. It's
Yeah,
so easy to say it, but so hard to do it. I mean, just that little thinking, that give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Give yourself 5 seconds to think at least,
yeah.
and breathe within those 5 seconds will be amazing. A different result will come to you.
Oh, for
So
sure, for sure.
that's
Yeah, yeah.
my
We're getting more in
contribution.
tune with themselves. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. So there's two other points that I just want to address. So, or two other headings here. So one of them, so number 4 is to appreciate the present as the key to our freedom from fear. So appreciating the present, um, and what I mean by that is
Okay, so we
decisions
are
that are fueled
number
by,
4, which is appreciate the present. Yes. How do
yeah,
we appreciate presence? Uh, the present is right here, right now. The
right,
key word would be uh, now, right?
right. So being present is to be conscious of our thought process and being conscious of things when we hear I can't and I shouldn't within ourselves, right? These bring only confusion and dissatisfaction to our lives. When we think this way, we lose focus. We're letting go of our dreams and access to mediocre as things just being good enough the way they are now. So we're giving into that rather than doing what it is that we've really been put here to do, the ultimate purpose that we've been put here for. Yes, fear is scary. It is large and looms over us. We're afraid of losing people, money, health, status. We fear being irresponsible
But
or risking
we
everything.
are moving towards appreciating the present, right? So
What's that?
appreciating the present will be actually moving forward into actually being conscious of what our surrounding is, and actually being like we were mentioning, counting, being calm, breathing normally, breathing oxygen instead of whatever gases are out there. We can control how we breathe. So the most practical way to be present is actually breathing. It's the most essential exercise you could ever learn to
Yes.
in
Yeah.
entire life.
And that's a lot easier said than done because when we catch ourselves in a moment of fear or discomfort, the last thing that we usually think of is I have to remind myself to breathe,
Yeah,
right? But what you're saying is important, and we need to bring ourselves
we
to
have
that place.
the tool
Yeah,
and the habit. Make it a
yeah,
habit to
that's
think of
right.
that.
That's right. Very important. Um, so um, so being irresponsible or risking everything can be very, very fearful. If we choose playing it safe over wonder, potential, and possibility, then what we're doing is we're holding ourselves back from doing what it is that we really need to be doing. Many
Okay.
of us are locked into a fear-driven life. We've convinced ourselves that we just can't take the risk to put the fears aside and move forward. Um, so we need to look at the solution to that. We need to talk. So we need to take a very intelligent approach to fear when we're talking about fear. It's not enough to say that we need to banish them in order to overcome them. When it comes to fear, we need to break it down and understand it from the inside out. What we need to do is to become more familiar with the way it shows up in our life experience and develop a lifestyle that keeps us alert and present so it doesn't sneak up on us. Addressing fear takes intention and willingness. Um, and so the question is, do you want to unlock yourself from fear? then we need to consider these three vital keys. The three vital keys are: A, get to know the face of fear. Know that fear doesn't always hit you head on. The intelligent approach begins with recognizing it, being able to recognize the fear. And it can show up again in many different ways, many different faces. Obsessive worrying. So imagining negative outcomes about the future, all those what ifs. Excessive mental activity that tries to analyze every angle of every situation. Doubt and indecision. So should I or shouldn't I, right? So we all have that. A lower level of stress or anxiety, especially felt in our body, can be very helpful. But when we feel that lower level of anxiety and stress, we need to acknowledge it then and take care of it then before it becomes huge. Once it becomes huge, of course, it becomes a lot more difficult then to attack head on, and that's when it usually overtakes us, right? So a sense of living in our head, detaching from our body. Maybe it feels like, one having an oversized head and a very tiny body, because that's what happens to us when we have that amount of fear in us, is that our heads feel so much bigger, right? If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, be curious, look deeply into our own experience or experiences. Chances are we'll see fear at the root. And this is great news, because if we see the fear at the root level, then it's easier to take care of. It's easier to work through and get rid of. The physical sense of fear is when we experience ourselves, when we tell ourselves a scary story, and we feel that certain bodily sensations such as tension or contraction make this understanding alive for us. So right now, by checking it out in our own experience, we'll notice a fear response that shows up in our body, along with thoughts that doubt, worry, analyze, ruminate, plan, project, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. So, and it's also important to congratulate. So, congratulations if one has just shone the light directly on fear. You'll see that whenever you feel fear, there are physical sensations and scary anxiety producing thoughts. And we need to be conscious of those thoughts and feelings to be able
Okay.
to work stuff through.
Perfect.
And it's all about the movement, or sorry, it's all about the moment, because the reality is important to understand that the goal is not to get rid of the fear. It's not a, it's not about possible. It's about that taking the intelligent approach to fear. We want to be very realistic and practical to support each person on their road to freedom, and the road to freedom is being able to work through and overcome fear. So freedom doesn't mean feeling no fear. What it means is working intelligently with our experience so fear no longer controls you or controls us. And the
Okay.
reason why I'm saying us is because, again, we all experience fear. It happens all the time. We just have to be on top of it. We have to conquer it. We have to get through it.
We have the tools, we have the experiences, we have the availability and the will to do it,
Yeah,
and the
that's right.
awareness.
And yeah, and once we develop a rhythm or feeling, the body sensations every time that we notice fearful thoughts, fear simply loses its oomph. It softens every time that you move your attention away from things and
What's
into the
number five?
sensations of the body, right? Yeah. When we add up the moments, one will notice that one has more peace, a greater clarity about people and situations, more choices that you never thought of before, a lightness and brightness in our being. The only time that we can do anything intelligently about fear is when it arises in the moment. When you notice it, stop, breathe, feel. Every time is a turn of the key to freedom. And that goes back to when you're talking about, deep breathing and being conscious of deep breathing and knowing, okay, when one recognizes and realizes in a stressful situation, stop and breathe. Yeah. So that's right. Very, very important. So these are the keys to freedom. Someone might be asking the question, okay, so now what? So now that I have all that, now what's the next step? So again, as we know, fear confuses us. It clouds our thinking towards the negative and leaves you blinded to the full place of possibilities in a situation, and it keeps us in lockdown. So keys 1, 2, and 3 invite one to look, to let go of fear ridden thoughts and breathe with the physical sensations right in the body. When fear is no longer driving us, it might still be there, but it is our innate wisdom. One acknowledges the fear, sees the truth of it, and simply through thoughts and sensations, one can step forward and release that fear.
What's number five, Greg?
Hmm?
What's number 5? So we
Okay,
reached
question.
number 3, churches, appreciate the present. Number 5 will be?
So number 5 now is committing ourselves to a life free of fear.
Wow. How can we commit to a life free from fear? Why? Why will I do that?
Why or how? I've already explained the why. We went through all the whys. Okay.
Okay, let's
So,
go.
so
Let's
now,
go.
so now it's about how to commit ourselves having a life free of fear. So there's 10 steps. There's
Wow.
10 steps to this. Okay, and this is the final piece. So the first of the 10 is, no matter what we're going through, it's important to always see the good in our life. To be thankful for what we have is important, and also to acknowledge it is important to do that. And not just once, not just twice, as many times as we can during the day. What are we thankful for? And if we can list 5 things each time, even if it's the same 5 things, it's fine. If one can find different things each time, that's even better,
Yeah.
right? So seeing the good in our life, staying focused on this, writing down what we're thankful for each day and what we appreciate. Keeping this up until we see a robust sense of our life and that there's more to be thankful for than to fear, or more that we're thankful for than not thankful for. Forget what we want, forget what we desire. It's being thankful for what we have now is important, right? Trust that we have the skills to get through hard or difficult times. Is not easy, but important. Don't be afraid or fear the anxiety. That's number 4. Number 5, do something that makes you feel good about yourself. Number 6, get in touch with your 5 senses to help stay in the present moment. Right? The 5 senses are touch, sight, hearing, smelling, and what's the other one? Smelling, taste.
Like feeling touch and listening.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So, so getting in touch with all of those is very, very important. Um, and so, and doing, the other piece that's important too is that we're we're doing mindful meditation, concentrating on our breathing in through our nose, out through our mouth, concentrating on something in the space around us, such as a towel. It could be a flower, it could be a plant, something, anything positive, and just focusing on that one thing will help clear our mind of anything that might be causing problems in that moment. Right?
Music.
Reminding ourselves that anxiety is temporary. Panic attacks last for a short time, and they do pass. Always remember to breathe. And again, this is something that you keep saying. Always remember to breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Important. Connect with someone or something. Anxiety breeds in isolation. Connect with a friend or somebody else that you know, a pet, a tree. So getting out of ourselves is important. Getting out of our head is important.
Getting someone that you know, if you have someone that know yourself better, is very, very, very helpful. Because it's when you are suffering an attack out there, And there are a lot of people out there. You need a friend, a good person who knows you or who knows how to handle the situation in that situation, because they cannot just tell you, start breathing, don't worry about the rest, because
Yeah,
you will be anxious about that when you're suffering that specific time. It's very,
right.
very drastic. Uh-huh.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and anxiety cannot hurt. It feels like it, but because anxiety could feel like it's a heart attack, or it could feel like one's going to stop breathing. This is just an experience of these things. Fear that you are dying will only increase the anxiety. Right. So
Yeah.
again, as you say, it's important to stop, breathe, relax, focus on focus on something in the room.
Focus on one specific thing. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Like you like.
Absolutely. And then
And
number
for the
nine.
person, sorry, for the persons that are around you, do not interfere. Give them space, and also don't call their attention, or don't try not to say too much, not make too much noise, or uh, give the guy to focus on one thing and that one thing only. Period. Hmm.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's number nine, right? That just to remember
Yeah,
that anxiety cannot hurt us. Number 10 is to stop judging ourselves.
there you go.
So,
Very interesting.
and how to do that? Well, lowering our expectations of ourselves and others will decrease the amount of anxiety or stress that we're under.
Hmm.
Knowing that there is a point to trying, notice our accomplishments and acknowledging our accomplishments, no matter how big or small or mediocre, and always remember that it is not over. That's
Very
important.
nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice, Greg. Wow. This was very fearful for me because I'm not a public speaker like you. So I'm overcoming a lot of challenges here. And I really thank you. This will be very, very helpful strategies actually to as an experience to put it in practice, into practice, and to actually cope with that information. Uh, Make it available to you, make it more influential in your life, being part of life. Remember to breathe, remember to be aware of the things that are around you, be conscious of who you are, get in touch with your higher self, feel what it's telling you, accept, learn, detect, dream those numbers that it's is a major influence in your life. So put attention to those little details that it's sending you, because nowadays, specifically now that we are in the cocoon years, we are experiencing those feelings. We are receiving a lot of information. We are ongoing to an incredible transformation. We internally and externally. Everything that happens within us is happening outside us too.
That's right. That's right.
So we have to be aware of those. Um,
And also
eh,
that's right. And also just the other piece I want to mention also that's very very important is to acknowledge what we have control over and what we don't have control over. Worrying about and being stressed about things that we have no control over does not serve a purpose,
right, right.
right?
Don't
So
fight, go against the current. If you can handle it, leave it, right?
that's right. That's right. So, for example, when we're talking about this whole thing right now with COVID-19 and coronavirus, well, you know, can we control it? No. So, should we be worrying? Should we be having anxiety over it? Should we be stressing about it? Well, the simple answer is no. We
That's the
shouldn't
negative
be.
perspective, right? Yeah, for
That's right.
sure. Everybody's trying to approach it with a wow, what great time I have, and wow, I have been able to accomplish this much in my home, much better, much faster, and now I have access to a lot of different websites and information out there through the internet. It's amazing. It's fascinating how we are transforming our perspectives.
It is. It is. And I'm not trying to. And when I'm saying this, I am not trying to diminish. I'm not trying to say that that this doesn't exist. Of course, it exists, and it's it can be
As an experience. So take it as a lesson, take it as as a tool for your pocket, for your future strategies that you are going, future challenges that you are going to be faced with, because the next ones will be even maybe bigger or maybe smaller, who knows. So
That's right.
we
That's right.
have as a tool, a preparation tool, as an approach to a different challenge,
And
and
the,
be
and the, and the, and the yeah, and having the
that's the most
tools and
important
take
ones.
that's right. That's right. And having the tools and taking that approach is basically working with what we have control over. And what
Right.
we don't have control, just letting that go, leave it, because there's no point worrying and stressing about what we can't control, and focusing on what it is that we can control. That's what's important.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for all the listeners out there. You can give comments, you can give feedback. We will be very, very, very appreciated. Thank you so much for your time, for your listening, Greg. I so much appreciate you being with us, giving us your perspective of how to handle fear. Wow, it was very, very open-minded. I like the flow of the whole idea, and the information is very, very positive, very, very no, clear, to the point, to where we can take action. And like I said, listeners out there, just one little step at a time, focusing on one thing at a time. Try not to multitask, because it's not worth it. Uh, to accomplish things is easier doing one thing at a time. Um, and with this, introspective self has come to an end. Another episode of fear and the perspective of awareness into the fear uh, uh, chapter. So with this, we say thank you to all. I appreciate any other words that you have for us, Greg, that before we go into a closing.
No, I think you summed it up really well. You covered it. And what I would say is, so going forward, everybody, just um, don't allow fear to take over your life, and to conquer whatever it is that you're trying to get through and work through. Allow that fear to be your teacher, to be that aid, to help guide you through that hurdle or that obstacle, so you'll come out of it on the other end much happier, more fulfilled, and have worked through and accomplished it.
Use it as a propeller for sure, so you can accomplish that next level.
Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much once again. Introspective self, the place where important conversations happen, and also the place where positive strategies, positive stream, light thoughts, and conscious awareness come into place. Thank you so much all for being with us, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Romel.
Hoping to see you again. What will the topic for next week will be, Greg? Do you have any idea?
Well, I was thinking that we could talk about resilience.
Oh wow, yeah, resilience. Well, I didn't we spoke about resilience a while ago. How okay? Resilience is a very interesting topic. Many people have spoke about resilience. It's the word that is in the minds of every individual in the world right now, and every organization is using this strategy as a coping mechanism to what's next. So we will be talking about resilience next Sunday at 11 o'clock
Yeah.
Eastern time. It's 12:30. It's 1 o'clock, 1:28 right now. It's actually 12:20 right here in Toronto. Uh, we are at 3 degrees of Celsius, with an amazing clear blue sky and sunny day. It's amazing. So go out and have some fun. It will be very, very suggestible for that distress, and one of the important factors. Enjoy your life. Be present. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys. Thank
Take
you,
care.
Greg.
Say hi to everybody for me. Okay. Bye bye. Thanks.